Back in 2013, Crystal Dynamics released their reboot of the Tomb Raider franchise with Tomb Raider. This wasn't the first time Crystal Dynamics rebooted the franchise. In 2006, they did release Tomb Raider Legend, which, while some may argue that that game isn't a reboot simply because of how easy Legend and Underworld can fit in with the previous games, Lara's age, birth year, and origin story were all changed, so it does count as a new timeline of events, so therefore, it is a reboot. The biggest difference between that and 2013 is that 2013 is a total reboot of the franchise, starting from scratch with a younger and inexperienced Lara, and we play through her origin story. But not only that, we also saw a massive shift in gameplay philosophy. Now, full disclosure, this is one of my favorite Tomb Raider games, and it is a very important game to me for reasons I don't want to get into here. So that's what I want to do here today. I want to revisit this game now that it is 10 years old and see just how it holds up. But I also want to discuss how this game holds up in the context of the larger Origin trilogy of games. This video will be a little bit different because I will be capturing footage across both the PS4 and PC versions of the game, and I've also split the video up into different sections. So I have timestamped everything in the description box below the like button if you want to jump around the video a little bit. Alright, so we're going to be starting the video here on the PS4 version, the Definitive Edition. The reason why I'm playing it on here is because personally I do prefer to play this game with the Definitive Edition. I don't particularly like playing the PS3 version. I think the character model just looks a lot better in this particular version of the game. Like, I think the face structure is a lot better. The model resembles like the Legend Anniversary Lara, Underworld Lara a lot more than what the PS3 version of the game did. Like, the PS3 version just doesn't really look like Lara Croft that much, where I think this one actually looks a lot more like Lara Croft. So I think this is the version of the game I prefer to play. This opening cinematic is actually the first thing I believe they showed off for the game. This was kind of our first like look at the game and the direction that they were going in with this entry. My favorite thing about this cinematic is this guy in a sec reaches out and grabs her and pulls her out, and then in the next shot he's just disappeared. So I guess he just drowned on this half of the boat. Like, he's just gone. Like, where did he go? Because it definitely wasn't Roth, because he's on the other half of the ship. So I guess that guy that just saved us just died. But this is the reason why I like playing the Definitive Edition, is because Lara looks really good in cutscenes. Like, look at that. She looks great. She actually looks like Lara. Now, this game, of course, took some very heavy influences from the Uncharted series. Not just in terms of its gameplay, which we'll discuss a little bit later in the video, but there's a lot of aspects where it's like cinematic gameplay, like cinematic set pieces, or just like little bits that are designed to be more cinematic. Like this bit, for example. You can see we've got a cinematic shot here. There's not a lot to gameplay going on here. Yeah, there's a lot of examples of this kind of like cinematic gameplay throughout. And see, now the camera angles change, so we now have to keep moving it and swinging Lara in a different direction. Oh, this hurts. This actually, like, oh. But it's a lot of things like this, and then little quick time events to kind of just have these cinematic moments play out. It's very much a product of the time period, and it's something we still do see in video games a lot today as well. Now, fun fact, in the original trailer for this game, the original gameplay trailer, this person's actually a different person, and Lara actually says her name is Steph, so they actually changed that for some reason. I wonder why. Lara doesn't have her fancy equipment in this game, so we're making do with what we got. I'll say, look at that Lara model though, like, she looks really nice. I especially love the hair. And this game also borrows the survivor instinct thing that all games for the last decade have been utilizing. A lot of games from the time, and even still to this day, actually utilize Assassin's Creed's Eagle Vision. It's everywhere, you can't escape it, even if it makes no sense. Like, it makes sense in Assassin's Creed, but in games like this, it makes absolutely no sense why you would be able to do this, but whatever. It's a gameplay thing. Tell you what, look at that fire, that looks so weird. Why does it do that? Like, what the fuck is that? This is kind of what I was talking about before. It was like, it's like these kind of action set piece type things. where it's very scripted, very on rails. You're not really in any danger as long as you hold forward on the analog stick. But one thing you'll notice straight up is Lara does not run very quickly. It's kind of a light jog. And I can move quicker if I keep pressing the circle button and moving. And again, this isn't something that this game specifically did, but a lot of games did this at the time where they had these kind of like big set pieces. Again, it's another like Uncharted influence. And there we have it. I've always really loved this intro to the game, like when she gets up and then the camera pans around to reveal the island, and like this, the theme kicks in, and then you get the Tomb Raider. Like it's always been like one of my favorite moments in any games. Like I really just love this moment. And also, like, I absolutely love the theme to this game. It's an amazing theme. And then it just transitions straight into gameplay, which is nice. And this kind of whole intro segment of the game is very much an indication of the vision and the direction that Crystal Dynamics wanted to were going in with this game. Rather than just changing the gameplay elements, this game was very much a reboot of and a reinvention of the character of Lara Croft as well. Obviously, the big thing to note here is this is a younger version of the character. She's 21 years old in this game, and so she's really just fresh out of university. She's young, she's inexperienced. This is very much a game where it's a fight for survival for Lara, and you know, she learns and grows a lot as a character as you progress through the game. And when it comes to the Tomb Raider fandom, you either really love this or you hate it. And there's a lot of people out there who hate the direction that this game went in, and a lot of people even consider this to be a character assassination of Lara. Which is something I personally disagree with. Like, I do personally think this version of Lara is very much just as valid a version of Lara Croft as, say, classic Lara, for example. But yeah, and I think this, like, next sequence is a really good example that, like, she has some basic survivor skills, but she still has a lot to learn. Like, a lot of people don't like this bit as well because they look at it and think that, you know, it shows her as weak. Which is, again, I think it's such a stupid argument. This is the cutscene where we're introduced to Lara's friend, Sam. There she is, Samantha Nishimura. And this also sets up the base plot of the game, and that is that we're looking for the lost kingdom of Yamatai. And of course, this is where Lara gets her first bow, which does become her kind of signature weapon across this game and also, I guess, its sequels as well. And of course, that is something that a lot of people don't like, that they replaced the dual pistols, the iconic dual pistols, with a bow and arrow. And you know what? I do think that is a fair argument. The dual pistols are a lot more iconic than what a bow and arrow is. But I think the look with her with the bow and arrow, especially on the cover of the game, like, I just think it is an iconic look and works really well for this game. And obviously, she's not going to have dual pistols here on the island. This change in direction definitely caused a lot of divide in the Tomb Raider fanbase, and along with the divide, it's also caused a lot of toxicity over the last few years. And there is a particular reason why I don't engage with the Tomb Raider fandom, or really fandom culture in general, and that's because I genuinely believe the Tomb Raider fandom is one of the most toxic fandoms out there. And bear in mind, when I say, like, the fandom is toxic, it's mostly people on Twitter is what I'm talking about. It's the whole classic versus reboot thing. And then you have the all-era stans and the LAU stans, and oftentimes everyone is just as toxic as each other. A lot of hate posts and comments and attacking each other for no real valid reason. It's the kind of thing that just goes beyond just having an opinion about something, and it's more about baiting and bullying each other. It's just toxic, and it's just not what I'm about. Here's also where we learn a bit more about Queen Himiko, and for those who don't know, like, Samantha is actually a direct descendant of Queen Himiko, which is going to become very important as the game progresses. This kind of turned into a bit of a meme because Lara obviously spends most of this game calling for Sam. And that's another thing this game has over the other Tomb Raider, is there's a lot of, like, little horror elements to this game that you don't find in other Tomb Raider games, especially even the other reboots. Like, you've got a cult on an island. So they really go out of their way to add a few, you know, horror elements, not just in terms of the design, but in terms of like the music cues as well. She's not strong enough. That's a Tomb Raider Angel of Darkness reference, by the way.
I feel stronger now.
And yeah, for me, where I personally sit is I like all eras of Tomb Raider. And I also criticize all eras of Tomb Raider. You know, like classic Tomb Raider isn't as good as the classic fans like to make out that it is. And I will criticize all eras of Tomb Raider pretty equally. I will still say one thing this game does really well is I think this game really does lighting really well. Like, the lighting in every cutscene looks really nice. We gotta find all these salvage parts, and you can find all these salvage parts around the world. These salvage parts are used to upgrade your gear and weaponry and things like that as you play the game. So very much like modern kind of systems of gear upgrading and things, which you didn't get this kind of stuff in previous Tomb Raider games. There we go. So now we've got enough. We need to head to a camp, which there should be a camp just up the hill. And we can now upgrade our little axe. So yeah, like overall, I do think the decision to reboot the franchise and kind of go down this direction, I do think it was the right one. Up until this point, the Tomb Raider franchise had become very stale. And I think this was the right game to give it a new lease of life. And you can always bring back the other Tomb Raider elements later on. In fact, they do that in Shadow of the Tomb Raider. They kind of reintroduce, you know, exploration and puzzle solving. Shadow of the Tomb Raider is much more like a more traditional Tomb Raider game than this game and Rise. I think this game came out at the right time to breathe life into the franchise, because the simple objective fact of the matter is core design ran the franchise into the ground, which resulted in it being sold to Crystal Dynamics, and Crystal Dynamics gave new life to the franchise, but their games weren't very innovative, and they were like a modern version of a classic game at the time. The whole concept of Tomb Raider was getting very stale in the general broader gaming community, and it needed something to reinvigorate it and give it a bit of life. We're coming up to a very controversial scene in this game among the fandom. This whole sequence here is another bit that people point out when trying to talk about how weak Lara is as a character. And as tough as it is to see, you know, this kind of content where Lara is in the situation where she is being groped and she's tied up, it still is a very defining character moment for her. She's about to kill for the very first time. Rather than Lara just shooting people like in the old games, we actually get to see how that affects her. Granted, we only see it in this scene, and then the rest of the game she's just murdering people left, right, and center, but it's the thought of at least a little bit of character writing that counts, and I've already lost. Oh wow. That's another thing this game has, is very brutal deaths. It is still a very important situation to give her in to show that she is actually a strong character. She has a strong will to survive. As you see, she attacks her, she grabs the gun, and it shows that she is willing to do whatever it takes to survive. And I will be honest, this quick time event goes on for quite a while. I don't think it needs to go on this long. There we are, she kills him. And while this does affect her, it is a show of her character's strength, not weakness. But it's also a very human reaction to killing someone, and that's what makes this scene so good. Scene kind of loses a bit of its impact for the rest of the game, simply because after this moment, killing people doesn't affect her in any way. In fact, the gameplay actually makes you murder a bunch of people. And it's this kind of like disconnect between gameplay and narrative where, you know, the game tries to get you to really care about Lara in this moment. And it does it very well and does it very effectively, but then immediately throws you in this situation where you have to stealth your way through this place and you have to just start killing people. And yeah, it's just this like weird disconnect between the gameplay and narrative. But it doesn't change the impact that that moment has on Lara's character development, which is, to me, what is most important. I also want to point out that I do think Camilla Luddington does a really good job in all of these games of portraying this younger version of Lara. People often talk shit about Camilla Luddington's accent because they talk about how it sounds like an Americanized British accent. But Camilla Luddington is British. While her accent might not be the posh British accent that we're used to, it is still a British accent, and Lara is still British in here, so like it's not like the portrayal is wrong. Now here's an interesting fun thing about this game. This game isn't actually an open world game, or even like a little open world hub area. What this game actually does is uses these small cinematic moments like this, or like walking through a cave or something, to actually hide loading the next segment. Sometimes this game uses cutscenes to do it, but because there hasn't been a cutscene during this period, it's using this bit here to hide the loading for the next segment. And this is something that you started to see a lot of games doing at around the time that this game came out in 2013, and it's something that games still do today, and like this whole seamless loading kind of thing is really good. Like you have this segment here where you're in a small confined space, and then you come out and now you've got a new open segment where we're about to run into Roth. I really think that's one thing this game does really well, is actually Lara's relationships with the other characters like Sam and Roth. It's all done really well. Especially the relationship between Lara and Roth, I think is a really well written relationship. And you know, one of the big criticisms of Tomb Raider games is obviously following in her father's footsteps. But in this game, it's very much more of Roth is like her mentor rather than her following in her father's footsteps, which is something that the sequel games do. But I think for this game, it's a different dynamic that I think works really well. But yeah, the point I'm kind of making with this is a lot of people criticize this version of Lara for being whiny and weak and all of that, but like literally everything the game throws at Lara and everything the game presents is the complete opposite. Lara is a very strong character in these games. What's really interesting about this game is actually its early development. You see, early on during the game's 4-year development cycle in 2009, Crystal Dynamics were experimenting with a project called Tomb Raider Ascension. This was the early prototype for what would eventually become the reboot. You can even see in some of the test footage that has been released over the years that a lot of elements are very similar to the reboot game, with some aspects even carrying over. For example, the fire torches, the pickaxe, and even the bow as one of Lara's weapons. But outside of those gameplay elements, the early concept was very, very different. After completing Tomb Raider Underworld, the team were looking to create a new Tomb Raider experience, and Ascension was going to be a survival horror game, with heavy inspiration from games like Resident Evil and Shadow of the Colossus. You can even see that influence in a lot of the game's early concept art for its monster design. A lot of grotesque looking monsters that could easily fit in with a Resident Evil game for sure. There were multiple concepts for this game, with early concepts featuring a second character, a girl named Azumi, and the two characters would have formed a sort of symbiotic gameplay relationship, similar to what we have seen in games like The Last of Us or the recent God of War games, to Lara having a monkey companion, and then just Lara being on her own, facing off against what looked like hordes of enemies and massive giant enemy bosses to encounter. The early combat still looked very similar to the previous LAU games, but adapted into this new concept with some added mechanics. Lara would have even been able to ride a horse. I'm not really sure if the concept with Ascension was to reboot the franchise completely still, or if they were going to stick with the same timeline but just make a fresh gameplay experience, but either way the concept was scratched in favour of the more appealing action-adventure. But it's cool to look back at some of this early gameplay footage and see a glimpse of what could have been. Okay, so we've now switched over to the PC version of the game, and the reason why we've done this is because it's so much easier to import save files. But we're here to talk about the combat. So you will have noticed that earlier on we got the bow and we got the gun, but Lara actually has four main weapon types in this game. We have the bow, we have the pistol, you can get a assault rifle, and also a shotgun. Now, I'm going to be honest, I have not played this game yet on PC, so seeing this Lara model is really weird to me, especially because I'm so used to the other one. Oh, there she is again. Reboot Lara having a cry again. Fuck's sake. That. Fire arrows. That's what we want. Let's go test them out, eh? Alright, let's test out the combat. So we're going to try out all the weapons in this bit, but we're now going to be surrounded by enemies. Fire arrows actually do quite a bit of damage, which is nice. We can dodge using the circle button. So far the combat does feel pretty decent. Like, it doesn't feel too bad. A little bit clunky by today's standards. Let's try out the pistol. Let's see how this goes. Oh, missed him. Oh god, fuck, I wasn't paying attention. Assault rifle has a lot of recoil, so it's not as accurate. The sound design is really good, though. All the weapons actually have really good sounds. Sound like they pack quite a bit of a punch. Alright, let's try out the okay, actually, I don't know if I'll get close enough. Fuck, I'm dead. Get behind cover. And obviously, in this game, you actually do have regenerating health as well, so you don't really have to worry about a health bar or anything. Oh, there you go. Look at that. Now, it's really cool because with the arrow, if you hold this down and press the up, you can actually change between your arrow types. So you can shoot a standard arrow, or Lara will ignite it, and you actually get a little igniting animation down there, which is pretty cool. I've always thought this, but I think the best weapon is the bow and arrow. I don't think the other weapons are as good. And this is the other thing you can do here, is you can go to campfires, and you can upgrade your gear and weapons. Now, one thing I found in that little brief segment just then is the gun kind of floats a little bit. It's hard to see on screen, but like when you're shooting it, there's not like a lot of recoil, but there's just enough for it to kind of sway and move up a little bit, but also sway, like, and it makes it feel very floaty. So this is probably going to help with that. The other thing you have in this game is a skill tree. It's very rudimentary, very basic, but you have 3 different types of upgrades for Lara. You, after dodging an enemy, stab them in the knee with an arrow to cripple them and leave them vulnerable to a killing blow. Let's do that one, because in the next segment, let's try that out. So we have to press B to dodge an enemy, and Y to do that, and that should be fun. And hear that sound? That is the sound that if you look in the bottom corner, it says secret tomb nearby. Often the hidden tombs, the challenge tombs, the side tombs are always usually identified in the world by these kind of markings. So there's actually a challenge tomb here. So, and the way the challenge tombs work, oh fuck. Okay, I wasn't expecting that. Oh no, it's one of these, like, shoot the things upside down bits. Fuck, I can't aim for shit. Jesus Christ. I struggle aiming at the best of times, and now it wants me to fucking aim upside down. Oh no, the gate's closed. Alright, here we go. A bunch of other guys coming to rush us. See, this is why we're playing this segment of the game. There we go. And then now we've got a little finisher. So there we go, that was the upgrade that we just bought before. Oh my god, he went flying. Nice, nice. So this is actually interesting, because we actually need to take out this guy up here. Because what he does, what that siren does, is it actually keeps the reinforcements coming. So as long as we keep people away from that... Fuck! We can actually get through this segment pretty easily. I remember this being quite stressful the first time I tried to play it. I wish I had a sniper rifle though, like to take out the guys up the top there. That would be nice. So you can actually see it when you fire the assault rifle. You can actually see the kind of spread that it has. Alright, let's just run up there and take him out, since he's not going to stick his head up. Oh, that was a mistake. Fuck, this guy has shielding and a shotgun. Oh, fuck, I'm dead. I'm gonna die. This is a disaster. How the fuck did I survive that? I would say, out of the assault rifle in this, I much prefer using the pistol. It's just a lot more accurate to use this pistol, especially now that I've upgraded it like this. That was funny. He just face planted. Alright, so we've kind of skipped forward a little bit in the game. We are now a couple of levels after where we just were at Shantytown. But this is actually a stealth section. But just to set the scene, as you can see, there's a bunch of guys here in the forest. And they're all got torches, they're all wandering around, they're all looking for us. Now in this game, you can silently take out enemies by shooting them with an arrow. However, you need to get a headshot and shoot them once and kill them instantly, otherwise they will alert the other guards in the area. So while you don't have to play this section stealthily, like I could easily just pull out my pistol now and just start shooting them, it does kind of change up the gameplay a little bit because it actually gives you a few more options. So we've got a guy here, so we're going to try and stealthy take him out. Now for some reason he doesn't notice I'm here, but let's just hit him in the head. Now you can try and hit him from far away if you're a decent enough shot. As you can see, the actual reticle, if you look at it when he walks out from behind that boulder, I'll show you. When you look at it, when you aim him, it's just got the circle, but when you get a headshot, a lethal shot, it actually turns into like this little diamond thing, which is pretty cool. A shit shot. I'm not going to hit him. I need him to come closer. See, there's a guy isolated over there. Don't know if I'm a good enough shot to get him though. You can also use arrows to distract the guards as well. Now, this is the tricky bit because there's a bunch of guys in very close proximity to each other, which means it's going to be very difficult to take them all out stealthily without alerting other guys. Fuck, 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 fuck. There we go. Got a stealth kill. I do love that. That's a pretty brutal animation. I do quite like that. Okay, that's both of those guys taken out. Let's take out this guy real quick. Okay, I think that's all three of them. Yep, see, they know I'm here. Alright. Where did the other guy go? I didn't kill the other guy. Did I? Well, maybe I did. One of the biggest criticisms of this game was the fact that there isn't a lot of actual tomb raiding in the game, and when it comes to actual tomb raiding, a lot of it is left to these side content tombs. Tomb Raider is built on puzzle solving and exploration, and the tombs, and yeah, you have action and stuff as well, but the focus was always on exploration and puzzle solving. And in this game, the focus moves away from exploration and puzzle solving and instead is more focused on kind of action and set pieces and things like that. Again, like I said, very inspired by Uncharted at the time. So a lot of the puzzle solving and exploration was left to these side tombs. And the thing is none of these puzzles are very difficult at all and can be solved very quickly. Now, the whole goal of the side tombs is usually need to unlock a path by solving an obstacle, which then unlocks a path which allows you to get up to the room to get whatever treasures inside. So in this puzzle here, we've got this gas up here. So obviously gas, as you can see where we light up, we've got a climbable wall up there, which means that's our goal. We need to get up there. But we need to find a way to get up there. Now, luckily for us, we actually have our fire arrows. So I can just straight shoot the gas there and it ignites it. So if I'm being honest, that's not really much of a puzzle. Okay, so we need to get rid of that stuff there. Can I just shoot it with a fire arrow? Oh yeah, I can just shoot it with a fire arrow. Okay, never mind. No, can I? There you go. You just have to shoot it a few times. Cool, and now we can climb up on the wall. Alright, and there we go. That is the challenge tomb done, and then you go up and collect these. And there we go, and there we get the treasure. Fantastic. And as you can see, they're not very challenging tombs at all. It's very straightforward. So I'll show you another example of a challenge tomb on screen right now. So a lot of the challenge tomb in this game are very straightforward, easy puzzles. And that was also another criticism of the game. And I think that is a very fair criticism. I think if a lot of the puzzle solving, which is a staple of the franchise, is being left to side content, then that side content, those challenge tombs, really should have been a bit more in-depth. And while there are a couple in the game that are a little bit more in-depth than others, they're all very easy. Now, this is actually something that the sequels do rectify. In fact, I do think Rise of the Tomb Raider has some pretty cool challenge tombs, but also Shadow of the Tomb Raider by far has the best side tombs in the game. They really upped the ante for Shadow of the Tomb Raider. So to end the video, we skipped to the end of the game, and there is one specific part of this boss fight that hasn't aged very well with the hindsight of the rest of the series. Lara picks up her dual pistols, and we use both pistols to take out Matthias, and we have this epic final shot where Lara is standing holding both pistols. It's meant to be symbolic of Lara overcoming her fears and struggles and becoming the Tomb Raider. I actually have talked about this in the past in my old Shadow of the Tomb Raider video, link below the like button. But what becoming the Tomb Raider means, it doesn't mean she suddenly ties her hair into a braid and she puts on the shorts and the little red glasses and whips out the dual pistols and starts being sassy. What becoming the Tomb Raider means is her character shifts perspective and becomes the more confident Lara we know and love. And this comes back to her character arc I was talking about earlier in the video. Lara starts the game not as confident, but over time as her character develops and changes to the point where we see her with the dual pistols, it's a change in her state of mind, and this kind of thing just doesn't happen overnight, but the ending sets up that she is ready to become that character. We see her become the Tomb Raider in essence. But the problem is, this is the only time in the entire Reboot series of games that Lara has dual pistols, which means that it loses all symbolic meaning in hindsight. The big issue this creates is that this game is meant to be an origin story for Lara, right? And I do firmly believe that with the way the direction of the trilogy went, when they made this game, I don't think they had any intention of doing an origin trilogy. And this causes a little bit of a disconnect between this game and the two sequels, because Lara goes essentially through the same character arc twice. Though, to be fair, they do explore her character quite a bit more and her flaws and her character growth across the next two games. It's quite strong character writing, but ultimately, these games do still work together. I just think it's very messy, especially if you read the comic books after this game, and Lara is characterized very differently to how she appears in Rise of the Tomb Raider. At the end of this game, we hear a little monologue from Lara. It's about the experience on the island, changing her mindset, and the exact same thing happens in Shadow of the Tomb Raider, and she becomes the Tomb Raider at the end of that game. They backtrack her arc in this game and in the comics so they could turn it into a trilogy. A lot of people say this isn't very much of a Tomb Raider game, but it's more of a Lara Croft game, and I do agree with that sentiment in the context of an origin story. But on that note, that brings us to the end of another video. Hope you all enjoyed. If you did, consider dropping a like on the video, that would be greatly appreciated. And if you like this kind of retrospective type content, then why not click the subscribe button? We will be covering more Tomb Raider games in the future, as well as plenty of other great games, including some older ones from my childhoods. But for now, thank you so much for watching. Hope you have a great day. Bye for now.